Hello, it's December 3rd, and this is an LPAC TV update. Now, you might have thought that the Irish were the only ones right now holding up the cadaver called the European Monetary Union and the Inter-Alpha Group of banks. However, news has come out this week to reveal that we Americans now have one more reason to stand in solidarity with the Irish. According to the facts revealed in this week's report by the Fed in response to Senator Bernie Sanders' amendment to the Frank-Dodd bill, the American people have shelled out a total of $16 trillion, which went primarily to foreign banks. This involuntary bailout came in the form of asset purchases and currency swaps, essentially forking over suitcases full of cash in exchange for so-called mortgage-backed securities, which, as we learned from the Bank of America case earlier this week, are actually backed by nothing. As Senator Bernie Sanders said when this news was revealed, the $700 billion Wall Street bailout turned out to be pocket change compared to trillions and trillions of dollars in near-zero interest rate loans and other financial arrangements that the Federal Reserve doled out to every major financial institution. After years of stonewalling by the Fed, the American people are finally learning the incredible and jaw-dropping details of the Fed's multi-trillion-dollar bailout of Wall Street and corporate America. Perhaps most surprising is the huge sum that went to bail out foreign private banks and corporations. Senator Sanders went on to ask, has the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States become the central bank of the world? What was revealed in the Wednesday report is that through the various, almost innumerable Fed lending facilities, the major beneficiaries were foreign banks, not U.S. banks. When the Fed paid banks to get toxic mortgage-backed securities off of their books, both Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank received about $300 billion in U.S. guarantees each. When the Term Asset Lending Facility opened their window in 2008 to save these banks the humiliation of going to the regular Fed overnight window, 6 of the 11 top recipients of short-term loans were European banks, including Inter-Alpha's Banco Santander and Société Générale. The Fed also disclosed that of the $3.3 trillion TARP bailout, $1.5 trillion went solely to British banks. The Commercial Paper Funding Facility gave Britain's United Bank of Scotland $74.5 billion overall, which was more than twice as much as Citigroup took. In 2008, London's Barclays took the largest amount from another Fed overnight lending program when it got just shy of $50 billion. And all this to say nothing about the $180 billion AIG bailout, where tens of billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars went to foreign banks, including Société Générale, Deutsche Bank, Banco Santander, RBS, Barclays, UBS, and many, many more. Of course, there were other recipients of the $16 trillion. Morgan Stanley's $2 trillion, Merrill Lynch $2.2, Citigroup $2.4 trillion, Bear Stearns $962 billion, and Bank of America $931 billion. From 2008, when the bailout began, the Fed has made 21,000 different transactions, with Morgan Stanley visiting 210 times and leaving with a bad case of gonorrhea. Talk about contagion. Also, according to the Wednesday report, non-banks were major recipients of the U.S. taxpayer bailout, including Harley-Davidson, Caterpillar Construction, Verizon, General Electric, BMW, Toyota, and McDonald's. When the Irish crisis first exploded, Lyndon LaRouche stressed that the American people have to recognize that we have a single common enemy with all other nations in the world. A global monetary regime with its headquarters in London, who are willing to murder the citizens of those nations for the sake of the survival of their bankrupt empire. Over the past 2 weeks, we have watched as patriots in Ireland have risen up against the attempts by London to eliminate every last vestige of national sovereignty there. Now, we in the United States have the chance to do the same. These revelations prove that the sovereignty of the United States is being destroyed while our White House and Congress are being held as captive puppets of the British Empire. The United States government is violating the Constitution by bailing out British banks, and any complicity with this destruction of the United States and its sovereignty should be considered an act of treason, an attack on the American people in collusion with the interests of a foreign state. The facts of the case have now been exposed, and the American people could wake up now and stage an all-out political insurrection in perfect solidarity with what we're now seeing coming out of Ireland. It's clear how desperate the Inner Alpha Group now is by the level of aggressiveness and intimidation that they've shown towards the Irish in regards to the bailout. The very existence of their entire financial empire is riding on their ability to mug national governments and acquire U.S.-backed bailouts under the cover of night. The Inner Alpha Group is so vulnerable that the CEO of their flagship bank, Santander's Emilio Botín, had to purchase 1.9 million shares in his own corporation just to keep his all-powerful bank afloat. I mean, think about it. We've really got terrific strategic leverage here. If the entire British imperial banking system has been depending on secret handouts coming from the Federal Reserve, what will happen when we as Americans say, we won't pay? We've declared independence from the British Empire once before. Why not do it again? Perhaps this was why the British Foreign Office has made it clear to Washington that a reinstatement of the Glass-Steagall Act in the United States would be considered by London as an act of hostility against the empire. Well, I say, you're damned right we're hostile. $16 trillion? We'd like that back, please. And by the way, don't try coming back to the Federal Reserve. We're nationalizing it. It was unconstitutional in the first place. Signing off, this is Matthew Ogden.